Welcome everyone, Dr. Thor here. Let's get ready for Gnosis. Well, one of the areas of kind of modern empowerments, particularly that can be tested. Now, um, we don't have basically people like wizards or Harry Potter stuff that actually is people can be tested like that. And generally, ritual and other type magical practices don't really produce these kind of results that you see in Hollywood. Now, magic is very effective and it does work, but it doesn't work like that. Now, what people want to see is the kind of stuff that I'm going to show you right here. Now, one of the things, the proven, probably the greatest martial artist of all time, is Guy Savali. Tested in by many researchers, scientists, etc. I mean, Bruce Lee never lived long enough to do much of anything, and a lot of Bruce Lee's stuff was just Hollywood showmanship. Certainly, he was a fine martial artist, but he really didn't demonstrate any strong internal arts, as they call it. The internal arts in martial arts is when you're using your chi power to do things. Of course, his 1-inch punch was a show of chi power, and I don't know if he was just smart or didn't develop that or not, because when you start doing cheap power things, people call you a fraud because they are deep, dark, and ugly people. So I don't know what he was into in those areas and never really expressed it. He'd like to come out as the wise old Chinese philosopher, which he really wasn't. But that's what people wanted, and that's what made him money. And I don't want to put him down in any way. He was not a fraud. He wasn't anything else. I'm sure he was one of the greatest martial arts of all time, but he never demonstrated anything but physical, low-level martial arts. Nothing else. Never showed any internal arts, and he was apparently he was sick. He had problems. He took drugs. He was not the highest level of moral person either. So let's get real there. Certainly, so if people are looking for that kung fu TV series master type guy, that was not him. So this was a fraud as well. I don't think there's anybody like what is it, Kwai Chao Kane in that series with his unique personality. That's one thing that David Carradine did. He certainly mastered this character and made him come over wonderful, which was very much what kung fu needed at that time, because there was very stringent violence on TV regulations. So you couldn't show a lot of that. People don't remember that unless you're an old codger like me. None of you youngums know that. So there were all sorts of things for how much violence you could show. So they had to show quick, short scenes. They had to make them very tasteful, and they mixed it with philosophy. So a fantastically well done series, and a lot of it had to do with David Carradine. Whatever you think of him, and we're not saying he's a great martial artist or anything else, but certainly his portrayal of it. Now, he originally started off, David Carradine, wanting to play it like Bruce Lee. Oh, me tough guy, kill you. And of course, that wouldn't have worked. Nobody would have bought into that kind of character, especially in the Old West when they had little things called 45s. So that would be a joke. So him playing the fact that, hey, leave me alone, do your thing, I'm here with peace, this is what was able to allow you to then thump them later. And what a slick way of doing it. Now, originally, David Carradine wanted to play the thump 'em kind of guy, like Bruce Lee. And the director told him, hey, play this down. So then Carradine decided to play it down and created that master part that he had. Now, whatever you think of Carradine, I've watched his acting and stuff. He was a great actor for what he was doing. And I don't think he gets enough credit. He was not a great martial artist. I don't think anybody claims he was. He learned martial arts later after the series because that's how he got work. So I don't think that we have to in any way state that. So it's very, very important that we understand that the greatest martial artists, both physical and in the internal arts, which are well known as the internal functioning of acupuncture, acupressure, and all the other arts there, are very well known. The problem is, like everything in life, there are frauds. But then you get the stooges, the unamazing Randy types, the Mick Dojo Life guy that couldn't find his ass in the dark with a flashlight. These kind of people are basically core evil punks. He wants to beat people up because he had a bad childhood. Poor little boy. So the whole idea is, and he's going to continue to that, to hurt masters while he's a base level, typical scumbucket martial art people. Most martial art people are low level jerks. They're nasty, they're rude, they want to beat people up because they think they have some skills until they see the cold hard steel of a gun. Oh, I knocked that out of your hand. Yeah, knock this bullet out of your hand, buddy. So the whole idea is that this is all nonsense. One of the great masters, and the only master that I know of who is thoroughly proven in the West, was Guy Savali. And his whole story is pretty fascinating. Let's play some actual tape of special forces, you know, those little wimpy weirdos that lie. Or was this a Hollywood set? Mick Dojo? It was a Hollywood set. He went down to Fort Bragg and got guys off the local bar and taught them that and gave them special forces uniforms. Little weirdo? Yeah, that's you, boy. So here we go. And we're going to turn the sound off of this as I speak for now. I think this gives you a little, and we're going to play this again. Now, this is on YouTube, and you can watch it completely. Yeah, see this Hollywood actor guy? He's even got the whole Southern Fort Bragg accent down. We should give him an Academy Award. So, and look at them real-looking Army uniform, Special Forces. You see that beret? Yeah, you can get that online for $10. So it's all a fraud. It's a fraud when you're a puncher and kicker of mediocre abilities. So the bottom line is that Guy Savali, who was featured not by name, but in the movie Men Who Stare at Goats, which was a fascinating film. But it was a downer film. It's very difficult to make a film of that book done by that sarcastic little idiot Ronson and make it in a way that you get it. Now, they did do that. And it's very, very interesting. They made it into this black comedy. And it's the only way you could do it and people take it seriously. Other than that, we'd have laughed at it. Been like a Bruce Lee movie. Me jumpy like a monkey. So the whole idea is that all of that goes with it. Here we go. Actors right out of central casting out of Burbank and Hollywood, right? Look at these guys. They almost look real. Yeah. Oh, look at that. Almost looks like it really is Fort Bragg. So, maybe you should go and talk to these guys, Mick Bobo, and tell them that they ain't special forces and see what you get. See how tough you are with them. So the whole idea is that this is what you get into. So the whole idea is that not only was he featured in that movie and that book, and this was the main guy, but of course Hollywood and Typical is not going to use your name. They're not even going to really say it's you because they're Hollywood. Why? Cheap. These Hollywood people who want to pay you nothing and snicker behind your back, well, they get into their Rolls Royces and go into their $10 million homes. That's Hollywood. And I know personally. Not only did I live in that area, I had plenty of contact with those scumbuckets, Hollywood types. So, but this is, and what's interesting about this guy is everything that goes with this guy. And the fact that you can become a master by being this little low middle class Italian guy from Ohio. That's what's funny about it. So he didn't grow up in the mean streets of Hong Kong, fighting the gangs on the street. Bruce Lee. And of course, Bruce Lee came from a wealthy family. On top of it all. So what's interesting is this guy could produce this doing not only that, but he's using Western psychic techniques. He's actually using energy, and get a load of this, people, from Jesus. Being an Italian and a Christian Italian, he would visualize getting power from Jesus. Now, how is that mind-boggling? Now, he didn't have to believe on Buhui, no, he didn't do that. So here's this guy that really couldn't be any more. Look at this guy, Special Forces officer, right out of Hollywood, huh, babies? Yeah, Mickey. So the whole idea is we have this problem with that. So note this, and as I said, I'll leave you the links down below. You can watch this yourself on YouTube. So the whole idea is, and I just checked with Savali. A customer of mine reminded me of Savali. I've known people who have trained with him. I have his tapes. I've been watching him for years, and I never got around to using his system. One of the problems is that he uses a Christian system, which I consider complete nonsense. But it doesn't matter whom or what you believe in. It's just a fact of going to an empowerment place. Yeah, look at those uniforms. Looks like they're real, doesn't it? Now, look how they wear their berets correctly. How did they do that? They must have a Hollywood guy there, huh, Mickey Dojo? So the whole idea is that these are the type of things that all of us need to fully understand what is real. Now, Savali died in 2020 and contributed to the scourge of the West or the world. They claim he died of COVID. Isn't that another COVID killer? And for all those people who don't think COVID is real or was a fake pandemic, well, of course, it's nonsense. It certainly was a terrible, terrible flu that killed tens of thousands of people. Now, was it as bad as any other flu? I don't think so. But the stuff that gets in your lungs and how bad these flus are recently is a major step above all the older flus. But people have been dying from flu every year by the hundreds of thousands until penicillin came in, and then that was reduced down. Again, medical facts. Boop, 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 boop. So here we go again. There's Savelli right there. Boom! Look at that with a metal pipe. Oh, it almost looks real. Or was that a piece of wood? Almost looks real. Look at these guys. Wow, what great actors. Right out of Fort Bragg. You know, they have an acting school there. So when you want to film troops, you don't have to bother the real troops. You go to the fake ones. So the whole idea is that this is the kind of nonsense that you run into, people who won't give recognition to true masters. And pretty much these bottom feeder martial arts types who are known for their pedophilia and their criminal activity are really comical. And they wouldn't know a real martial. And while Savali lived to be 82 or 3. So he did pretty good, considering most people die in their 60s or in their 70s. So he made it past the normal life expectancy. And, 82, 83 is basically your average life expectancy of any average person. So technically, life expectancy is more in the United States is around 78, 77, and internationally about 80. He lived you could say that he didn't die young. He was physically fit to a large extent. He didn't have a giant pot belly like the other goofballs have out there. So all of that is 1,000 times anyway. The point is here's a guy who at least lived a decent age span, even though all these martial artists that claim all this stuff should be living easily till 90. Most people are living to 86, 89, etc. After all, Benjamin Franklin lived to be 86. Daniel Boone lived to be 89. So, oh no, it's all that modern type of stuff, right? So the whole idea is that all these people are part and parcel of what is going on in the real world. So, but that's fairly it. So, but he didn't have a giant pot belly. I wouldn't say he was super physically fit if you want to looky cool, but he didn't have a giant belly like so many other people have, or in these martial artists in general. The more of these, quote, white kind of guys you see, they got big giant pot bellies, which means they're eating garbage, and they have pancreas and liver problems. That's how you get a big belly, because all the fats go into your belly instead of being burned. So he didn't really have that. For a guy his age and everything else, he looked good and he was physically fit. The other interesting thing about Guy Savali is I guess he had a little bit of the showmanship in him, or a little bit of style. After all, he was an Italian. So the whole idea is he had style. He probably knew some decent food. He probably came from a interesting family instead of some other turd background that you get from most of these guys. Huh, Mick Jojo? So the whole idea is that all of these other Cretan type people. So his daughter, and I don't know if he had more daughters or just the one, but his daughter was a very accomplished dancer, and she actually, I believe, was in the movie Chicago and actually performed on Broadway, I believe. So he had a martial arts studio and a dance studio so that his daughter could go into what she enjoyed. And she was very accomplished, as I've mentioned. And secondly, I'm assuming this brought in female crowds and brought money into him. You got to remember, all you McDodos don't really help or do anything out there to support martial artists. You won't even go to the martial arts movies. So that's why the industry is full of bottom feeder losers. So this was a way for him to make money and get both sides of it. And also, of course, if you are a martial artist, moving with style and ease of movement in general can be very advantageous for you. Of course, Van Damme practiced ballet, so he could move and stretch and all those things that go with it, which is quite an arduous and horrific thing to take, especially as a male. So learning how to move and spin and be light on your feet and graceful will assist your martial arts. Of course, I just hit things. I hit and kick it. I'm a martial artist. So you get all this kind of nonsense out there from these bottom feeder martial artists who do nothing. So, and of course, that's why Van Damme looked so good on film and can move so well and did all the kind of stunts he did. That was because he was trained in the ballet and could move very well. And he's another accomplished person who has won many tournaments, etc. And probably looks the best on film of anyone out there in his movement of karates and in general. Not to mention his, he was a bodybuilder as well. He has one of the best physical physiques of anyone I've ever seen, particularly if you go back to his older movies. So the whole idea is he was a bodybuilder, he owned a gym and all the other stuff. But that's Van Damme, and maybe I'll talk about him and some other things. But certainly another accomplished person that nobody wants to give credit to. So as we understand all this stuff, we must keep that in mind. So here's Savelli. So he had a dance studio in karate, and I'm assuming that he taught dance, he taught his daughter, and of course she became accomplished, and of course that brought money in. You got to make money, and the one thing that I've known about, and of course I've known people who trained under him. I didn't know him personally, but I've known several people that trained under him, and like everybody else, unfortunately, in the industry. And it doesn't matter if, the military hires you or not. These aren't long-term contracts where you're spending it on the base and they're paying you every year. You go in, you train a few people. This is the problem with the military. So if you're not going to be hired on there as a consultant for long periods of time, guess what? No moolah, people. No moolah. So you do not make a lot of money. So he made some money for training these guys, and I'm not sure how much he was paid for or not, but that doesn't pay the bill. The people I knew told me that Savelli had problems. He owed money in taxes and other things, and he was always trying to make a buck because there's no money in it. Nobody went to Savelli, even after films like this, and wanted to be trained by him. They're bottom feeders. Martial artists are bottom feeders. They're like gym rats who sit in the gym all day and pump iron because that's where they kind of live. At nighttime, they sleep in the back of the gym or on the outside of the gym next to the trash. This is your typical gym rat martial artist. So these are all the things that everybody has to keep in mind and understand what is going on here. So the whole idea is that he was hired by the military. This is verified. It's not only verified by a film like this and Savelli himself, but it was verified by Colonel Alexander, the famous general who was involved with everything metaphysical. He was involved in all the psychic programs. He hunts everybody today. He goes, anybody that has a UFO sighting, you'll find a Colonel Alexander there sticking his nose in. He's the guy that assisted in getting Art Bell started. He helped fund the Art Bell show to get that on the air. So he is everywhere. If you haven't heard of Colonel Alexander in the metaphysical or alternative warfare, you don't know much, which is probably most of the martial artists out there. Hey, can I hit something? There's a wall over there. Yeah, go hit it. So those are the kind of things. Let's get back to at least watching these things. I don't know if you can watch this enough. This is real, people. This guy just broke that bottle with his hand. And as he's stating here, none of it is conditioning. He's not banging his hands in sand. He's not roughing them up. All the primitive stuff you'll get from Asia. It's all done psychically. So, considering we give the military over $1 trillion a year, I'm assuming these people have some credibility. Well, to Mr. Dojo. Goo. So the whole idea is that the mind is a very powerful tool, and the bottom line is that people, and I hope you saw that, he put his hand through that board, and there he did again, using his palm, no force. But of course that doesn't exist, you know. I'm a follower of the pervert, unamazing Randy, little deviant liar, government whore that he was. And of course, you've done great research to be putting to attach your trailer to such a deviant piece of garbage as the unamazing Randy, who's been proven liar and complete deviant that he is. So the whole idea is that we get through all of this stuff. We have to fully understand it. So here we got this low middle class Italian guy from Ohio who has a karate studio and a dance studio, and he's able to do amazing things. Now, when Savelli was alive and in general, of course, the bottom feeder martial artists all said the same thing. This is all nonsense and everything else. I could kill him in a second. Well, the bottom line is that's how martial artists think, and it's all just brute force with them. And you got to remember, this is not Harry Potter. You're not going to go in front of a guy and he's going to knock you over, or some of the bad videos you see on YouTube. Well, the problem with all that stuff is that's what people want to believe, the kind of power you have. And again, if you're a person who has, quote, biophysical psychic powers or other abilities in general, you never can fail. If you're a psychic, you can never be wrong. Yet we have graveyards filled with the errors of doctors and people who have their entire lives ruined by the failures of lawyers. We have complete failures that the military has done, where they can't do a single thing to handle situations. This is the kind of stuff that we have. But if you're a psychic, you can't fail at all. So this is, of course, the kind of double standards, but that is out there. It's ridiculous. Everything's ridiculous when you come to particularly the bottom feeders occult of martial artists as well. These martial artists are real bottom feeders. So the whole idea is that we have to understand that. So here we go again. Here's using only your mind, nothing else. And he's able to take this. I don't know if that's steel or aluminum. It doesn't matter. He just bent it in half by doing that, and he's perfectly fine. So this is how it all goes, and this is done repetitively, as you've seen. And this is all how we have to look at things. We have to look at things from understanding. So this is the real thing. Proven, as I said, by government, special forces, government that he worked with. He was involved at the Staring at Goats and was able to take down a goat, knock it down, and all of these things which tend to be disputed was things that Savelli was able to do. Uri Geller chimed in and said he was tested with the same thing and say he was able to do it. So this is a very typical thing that happened that people don't want to believe because they're dumb idiots. But here, the plain and simple fact is here, as I said, is this Christian Italian guy using connections to Jesus to empower himself. And here's the proof. He's been able to do it and trained hundreds of people, and not just some little dojo monkey boy in some little school. And of course, people that are too poor to go out and test anything and to meet people like this and see if they're real. Now, none of them do this because they're weasels. Because of the fact that they don't want to go out. They want you to come to them like the unamazing Randy, take your time and money and waste your time talking to a person that has the IQ that is lower than his shoe size. So we have to understand that. So Savelli did this all the time, and again, it's hard to make money at this. Martial arts in general do not pay. There's not very many wealthy martial artists. Martial artists tend to go into the movies. Why? Because that's where the money is, plain and simple. I don't know if anybody wants to do it on film or thinks it's cool. Maybe that's part of it, but that's not the point. That's where you make money. You're not going to make money by teaching students in a classroom. You would have to have giant classrooms with people constantly coming, and people don't follow through with martial arts. It's like gym memberships. People get bored. It's stupid. You're sitting there doing katas, or like my old teacher, let's run in a circle now. Oh, isn't that exciting? So you have all this kind of nonsensical stuff. So needless to say, he's 100% proven that he's able to do this. And of course, nobody wants to take the time to do it. And what's amusing is that here's a proven guy, and we do have video here. I don't know who took this, or this was government-based. But, you know, there isn't anybody going around and testing martial artists that I've seen. Now, National Geographic did it with that bozo guy who couldn't really do anything, at least when he was being filmed. But that's not a proper way to film someone. And these producers and everything else, which I've had contact with, are certainly not anybody that can test anyone. They are movie people. They aren't scientists. They aren't in any way have qualifications to test anybody. And to test one person and everything else, well, they don't know anything. And they will not hire other people because they are plain and simple, don't want to spend any money. And they want to be in control. They don't want an expert to go in there and say, look, you're doing this wrong. Let's try this. No. As far as they were concerned, National Geographic is that they got the story they wanted. Not proof of something working, but proof of something that didn't work. That is not proof. They know nothing. These are nothing more than little film students who know nothing. So it's the entire reality of what's going on that we have to look at. Now, Savelli, of course, you can buy his courses and everything else, I think. Certainly his website is up. It appears that you can order. You can get courses and everything else. I don't know if they have DVDs or anything else. And I don't know who's going to film this. I don't know, fill the order. I don't know if his daughter is doing it or not, but his website is active, and there's a lot of information on his website, including how he empowers himself by going up this stairway and embracing the energy of Jesus to empower him. So the point is it's all there, his technique. What people think is this some sort of giant ritual, and you have to spend all your days and nights in a temple somewhere and then walk across rice paper and pick up a flaming bowl to burn into your eye. All this kind of stuff is very, very Hollywood. But this is not Hollywood. Here's this little Italian guy from Ohio that is teaching special forces, and it works. And they were impressed enough that they hired him, and we have a film of it. Now, unfortunately, Savali, and of course, you got to remember that photography and cameras are pretty new. If you wanted to get cameras, I think the first videotape camera I got, a VHS camera, was like $600 back in the 1980s, and they gave you pretty bad quality. We've only had good quality in cameras and easy, basic film recording since we've had good quality phones. Now phones are advertising how great their cameras are because all phones are the same. But you can edit on your phone. You can do anything. There's even people who have filmed entire movies on their Apple phone. Plain and simple. So the whole idea is that this, of course, is filmed. I'm assuming this is filmed by Savelli. I don't know who used this. You don't see it on his website. I'm not sure who did this or if this was for military purposes at the time. But he's 100% proven. As I said, Colonel Alexander references him, talks about him in his books and in interviews. He was part of this Stare at Goats. So apparently was Uri Geller, who again is another person with proven abilities, which is on film and testified to by scientists and everything else who tested him for years. Now you can believe in a deviant little midget man who was a pervert and a criminal like Unamazing Randy, or you can believe people who have some credibility. So all of this is there, and you can certainly check it out on his website. And if you want to get his courses, etc., as I said, I would email them to see how active they are or not. I'm assuming his daughter is keeping it up, but I have some VHS tapes of his, which I haven't had a chance to. I don't have a VHS player right now, but I am going to take these tapes and convert them over to digital and then put them on discs, hopefully in the future. But the whole idea is that these are the realities out there, and here's a proven person. And of course, that's not good enough for all the little naysayer, little weasels that are only punch and kick people. And again, as I said, the martial arts community, the bottom feeders that they are, their whole idea is that you prove yourself as a actual martial artist by being surprised somewhere in life, and they jump you and you fight them. That's the martial arts lifestyle, the way they do things. And that's always been the case. And anybody who's into martial arts, particularly the Asian people, they would get, you'd be walking down the street and somebody would jump in front of you. That's what they did. Bruce Lee talked about this. And of course, there's always these kind of challenges. And that's the culture of martial arts, particularly in Asia. I'm not sure how much of that happens in the United States or not. These are serious issues, and as a martial artist and a celebrity, no matter who you are putting yourself into high-level liability that could cost you millions of dollars. Is it worth it to thump that idiot? Well, probably not, and that's why you want to have bodyguards. So your bodyguards, you get those suckers out of the way, and you're not involved in it. But this has been proven, just like a lot of the remote viewing was proven, of how correct these things are in terms of people being able to detect things at great distances. These have been verified by a whole bunch of people. But here we go, if we get into the internal art stuff, is the fact that we got all this stuff. It's right there. And certainly, Savali was able to master this in his, what I like about it, as I said, he did it in his own personal way. He didn't have to pray to Buddha. He didn't have to walk on glass or whatever it is. He was able to do this in a very simplistic way, fitting into his personal belief system, which means that anybody can do this, and you don't have to be into the Asian mumbo jumbo stuff, and empowering yourself with that kind of stuff. So, this is the reality of it all. And again, we have these demonstrations, and these are real. I've known people who have trained under him and who they have witnessed that, but it doesn't always work. And it's very hard for somebody to jump out in front of you, and you're going to zap them like in a bad kung fu movie, where you're going to actually surprise them and be fight with chi energy only. That's not how it works. And by the way, it isn't only Savali. I wish I could find that guy again. There's some British guy who went around the world testing people like Savali, and he did this exact same test. He had somebody else hit him with a bar like this, and he was able to, I think it was a 2x4 wood, struck him across the back, and he was able to break it. And this was just a person who was not really a martial arts master, but went around the world and tested a lot of these people and did. It was a very popular film series done by a Brit, and it was, I'm sure it's on YouTube somewhere, but a lot of this stuff I've moved past, but it shows you what can be done and how powerful all these techniques are. This is not a joke, people. This is exactly, these are what people would consider some of the finest special forces on the planet. They have done it here, and plain and simple. Colonel Alexander has verified he was involved in these programs, and that's it. And I believe there, let me see if I can find that person's reference here. Also, we can talk about Nick Rowe, Colonel Nick Rowe. He hired Savelli. That's how he got his, I don't know how all that happened, to train the U.S. Army Special Forces at Fort Bragg, etc. And he's a famous colonel who apparently escaped from the Vietnamese prison camp and made it back out, etc. He apparently in 1989, Rowe was assassinated by a unit of the New People's Armies in the Philippines, which is quite interesting. So he was very much into this. He's obviously a serious special forces officer, and he didn't consider Savali some little pansy boy that wouldn't be able to teach his troops. Remember, the reason the military is into anything different is because it's not a joke. It's life and death. This isn't a movie. This isn't your little goo-goo dojos. This isn't a street fight. This is life and death. And that's why the military will look at anything that's serious. And here is another colonel who actually hired him, as well as Colonel Alexander. And of course, you have those many special forces that showed their training. This is the facts, people. Go to his website. Check out some of the links below. This is real. It's proven. This is science. Mickey Pooh. That's right. All of you laughers out there and these goofball people that laugh at Steven Seagal and everything else and make money off of him, you don't know what's real and you look like fools. And it's easy to tease somebody, especially someone like Steven Seagal that comes off so weird. But you're the same people that would tease Savelli here, who's proven it, and here it is. That's not good enough for you? Well, it never is with these chumps. Until next time.